Welcome to Community Conversations. I'm Anna Gopoian, and with me is my friend Trish Williams. How's it going, Trish?
Good, Anna. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, you seem to crossing paths across the driveway these days, you know?
Yes.
More and more.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
How long have you been where we lived?
I think 2001, 2002.
Mm-hmm.
But we really didn't get to know each other until 2011.
I know. I
Yeah.
know. Banana bread and a face full of tears,
Yes.
if I remember correctly.
Yeah, yeah.
And everyone knows someone is just something that we say that, and not surprised and not coincidentally, right? It just seems the people that keep crossing our paths.
Yes,
And
yes.
when I say that, what do you know I'm talking about? We're
Right.
always talking about people that are affected by the disease of addiction.
Definitely.
But man,
Yeah.
I think that's not even broad enough sometimes. Everyone knows someone. It's
One of the bad things about it is that so many people are silent about it. You know, they hold that in, they don't share it with everybody. Like with the struggles that I was going through with Chris, I didn't share that with you. I didn't really know you.
I know.
I shared it a little bit about, you know, with people I worked with. But when Chris died, people came out of the woodwork at work and would talk to me in private about how their family members
Loved
were
ones,
struggling.
Yep.
It was just about everybody I knew there.
I always feel like people like check the room, you know what I mean, or step back a little, talk a little quieter.
Yes, yes.
It still has a lot of like a grip and stigma.
Yeah,
You know. So
yeah.
You felt that too.
Yeah,
And even with, so the prior to losing Chris though, right? There's the stigma's there. Stigma, isolation, shame, guilt, all that trying to navigate before something's even said.
Yes.
But that's just as detrimental as the disease.
yes. Well, what my struggle with that was basically trying to find help for him and help for me. You know, it's a family disease that people don't want to admit that it's a family disease, but it's really, really important to deal with the family as a whole. People wouldn't talk to me about him because he was over 18. So
Wow.
I couldn't really be much of an advocate for him because of that. As much as I tried, I didn't know of support groups that I could go to. I didn't know of other people who were really in my position. Like I said, people I worked with were, but never talked about it.
Right.
So I think today things have changed a bit, where there are a bit,
Yeah.
but there are more support groups.
Yep.
I think that the stigma is really not quite as bad as it was. I think more people in the public are coming out and talking about, you know,
And language matters.
and language does matter,
Yeah,
right?
And I mean, you're an English teacher, right?
Right.
You know, that was your career.
Yes.
And I learned how to read better at like 32 years old. I use a comic strip section of the newspaper to better start reading, and which expanded my connection to humanity, right? And you said earlier, people are quiet about it.
Yes.
That is probably the most opposite thing about who I am today.
Yeah,
Would you please stop talking? No. But I am passionate about making sure, you know, I love Connecticut. I love Wallingford. You know, I live close by, not in Wallingford, but, you know, everything about me wants to be here.
Right.
And I'm coming. So, you know, and jokingly, people say, she's not going away. Because
she's here to stay.
Right, right. And
Yes.
it's important to leave something behind. That in one of the things that I had read not too long ago, there was a part that encompassed, you know, leaving legacy, right? Because I can't have children, or wasn't able to have children under circumstances. And this is something that I can leave behind, meaning what I do, why I do it. It's the conversations that we're having now.
Yes.
And the conversations that I'm able to have almost anywhere I go. Like we talked about non-coincidental things.
Right,
People cross your path. It's almost perfect how we cross paths.
right.
You know, we were already living across the street from each other, and until the experience that you had with Chris. And I met Chris like only in passing,
Yeah,
you know, and your dog and his dog,
Yes.
his buddy, his
Yeah.
fur buddy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And never actually knew what all the cool stuff I was going on in my house, all the people that were there in
Yeah.
recovery. We were learning how to live without the use of a substance.
Yes.
But now, you and I are like, you want to go to dinner, you want to go for a walk, you know. Sometimes some of the best stuff happens on a walk,
Right.
in a car
Right.
ride.
some of the nicest people I've met are through different activities, different functions that we have, people going through the same kind of struggles. You know, it just, and support groups.
Yep.
You know, the support groups, I think, are so, so crucial to know that you walk into a room and you know that other people are going through the same exact thing. And it's really nice to see people in different stages, you know, instead of somebody brand new, you know, if you have somebody who has been through it,
Yep.
you know, several years prior or, you know, whatever.
But
It
there's a sense of purpose in that.
There's a
As
sense
you're
of purpose,
you know,
right.
trying to make something, it's like weird. It's not a horrible circumstance, right?
Right.
And with the art of flipping, I'm always like, what's the other side of this? How do we move forward?
Right.
You know, it's like, oh, time will heal. No, time isn't going to heal that particular
Time does
circumstance.
not heal. It changes things.
It does. And,
It softens with time, but it never totally heals.
and that's with
Yeah.
the passing, like accidental overdoses, drug-induced suicide, murder around behaviors and activities surrounding substance use and disease of addiction. But there are parents, guardians, and loved ones that are affected and their loved one hasn't passed.
Right.
Right? And that's
Right.
just as crucial to be able to pull it away far enough to get a real perspective on what's going on and your part in it. Right? Because the
Right.
disease of addiction, I always say, it thrives on connecting itself to as many people as possible.
Yeah.
You know?
It's hard, like when Chris was going through his struggles, everybody has advice, you know, all of the family members have
Yeah.
advice. And as a parent, you have to do what's in your heart. What works for you might not work for the next person.
Exactly.
But it helps to be able to talk to other parents and know that their struggles are just as real as yours. And that you're not alone in this journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's really, really important.
And you refer to parents, it's, I always look at the whole system, right? So there's parents and partners, but there's kids
Siblings.
and other siblings.
Yes.
You know, and
Definitely.
everybody, it just shifts the whole dynamic and the attention. And then there's like lost children, right? And the person affected, and I could say for myself, right? July 13th, 1995, I found recovery. And there's a difference in the way that I'm able to help parents because I'm not one, but I can help them maybe understand things from a different perspective. Like, who are you talking to? You know,
Right.
like, because everybody's learning.
Right.
So it's really to look at the disease as something that needs to be treated, but when you become accountable for your own part in it, it's like permission in a sense. You don't have to do it alone. The groups are pretty great because we always say when you go to group, you automatically have us to blame in a matter of speaking. Because sometimes when you're a parent or a guardian, loved one, you're too close.
Right.
So we're saying, oh, there was this lady that said, or, oh my God, this guy that was talking at the meeting. Like when you refer as it's someone else's information, which it is
Right.
in many cases, it's just a little bit less like a finger wagging.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there's so much love and so much fear that is in the present moment. So as a person in this, you know, wanting to be in this field and helping people, Connecticut's amazing, has the most resources states that I've experienced that nobody knows how to access. That's my jam,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Resources.
yeah.
Like, so people call all the time. They're not calling me to tell me they're having a great day and you're never going to believe what I did. Do you want? No, they're like, I'm missing, my kid's gone.
I need
Or,
some help.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
self-care is what we promote in all the groups, the
Yeah.
different kinds of groups, but I don't want to be a hypocrite. So I'm learning how to take care of me too, so I can best advocate.
Yes.
And you see that too.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
because you can't be around it all the time.
Right.
All the time.
Right. Right.
But making a difference and leaving something, and even, you know, we've talked, or you've called me, like when you saw the heart on the tree in the
Yes.
backyard,
Yes.
you know, like there's a lot of symbolism that people pick up on things just to really keep people close.
Yes.
Or if, you know, when you want to have like a penny or a dime, like people have different things that they associate, and not necessarily only with people that have passed, because depending on the path that someone's on in their journey, maybe they're in jail, maybe they're missing. They could be living in home with you, maybe they're in treatment. you know?
Well, I had worked in prison.
Yep.
I was a teacher in the prison,
know.
the juvenile prison. I would tell my students, that their parents are probably sleeping well while they're in there.
I know.
You
That's
know,
so,
and they're
yep.
sleeping well. They don't have to worry about you. They know where you are. They know
Yep.
that you're alive. They know that you're not out on the street. Yeah, and just listening to some of their stories was just really mind-blowing, and eye-opening.
You say that in a support group too?
Right. Yes.
And everybody, it's like you shift in the chair, you identify.
Yeah. Yes, you do. We all, no matter how different our lives seem, we all have very similar paths
Yep.
and needs.
It's very human.
Yes.
It's very human. It's interesting. I've said before, I know you've heard me say it, that I don't think drugs are the problem a lot of the time, but the solution to an older problem.
Right.
And I think over time in my recovery, the unfolding of the reasons why substances and or addictive behaviors landed up satiating that need to soothe myself, I'll say it like that, from very early childhood, and then falling into different paths and ways to get, connected. If it was attention or approval, it's so many different things, having learning disabilities but never having it addressed.
Which is so common.
Right?
That is, as a teacher, I saw that all the time.
So it's kind
Yep.
of a mental health side of
Right.
things, right? And
Right.
that has just as much of a stigma when it comes to disease of addiction. It's such a 90-something percentile of people that's co-occurring.
Yes.
And it's hard. You can't treat them both at the same time, especially one can be more medically concerning, right? So you have to be more stabilized to be able to be, correctly diagnosed or something. And
Right.
I'm not a doctor. We're not doctors.
Right.
But we have something that's called lived experience.
Yes.
That is powerful.
Yeah.
And we could share our lived experience, no one else's, right? It's community in a way that connects us. I grew up here in Wallingford, love Wallingford, and I didn't do what I did alone. So I'm not going to
Right.
bust anybody, don't worry about that. and it's not my place because I now know more about why, right? And I'm not 2 years old, but why is the most excellent question.
Yes.
Why? And I'm not embarrassed to ask anymore. I used to feel embarrassed to ask or felt stupid. Like there's all the noise in our heads sometimes that people don't, what happens in the house stays in the house.
Well, a lot of people too think, well, not in my community.
Right.
This doesn't
Right.
happen in my community.
Right.
Or educators not in my school.
Yep.
Right. It's that denial. I mean, way back when I was teaching, in a public school, we had a lot of students, smoking pot in the in the bathroom.
Yeah.
And I brought it up to the principals. And, oh no.
We had designated bathrooms, right?
Oh no, they wouldn't be doing
Yep,
that. Not
yep.
in our school. Yeah. So I think that we're becoming a little bit more aware, and I think educators are becoming more aware, and they know that they have to admit that the problem does exist.
School systems are, it's interesting. I mean, there's so many different dynamics: age, race, sexual identity, creed, religion, lack of,
Right.
disability, finance, politics. There's good and bad in everything.
Right.
Right? But when it comes to like the towns and the not wanting to say something because of how it may appear to the town, like it's in the whole, but like where do we go to talk about it? Is it something that people can't talk about in school because the school then becomes accountable? Like I'm trying to learn as much as I can, as fast as I can. And then is the cost of your housing going to go down? Like is the town, I don't know. I'm always curious what drives things. And it seems to be the bottom line all the time. So I'll say like when I got an idea and really wanted to bring forth the organization and the nonprofit TriCircle, I really I had to learn. You're a board member and the organization because you have a perspective I don't. And I really look forward as we grow to diversify the board because there's so many different ways and perspectives of things that go
Yes.
on. But
Yeah.
just the town itself, it's like, who would I have talked to? I was 12 years old and I was in junior high and I was dealing drugs, but not my town. So now I always say, all you got to do is pick a side. no matter what town, because I'm all over the state,
Yep.
is supply or demand. Every town is
Yeah.
affected. When we were talking, everyone knows someone. Just seemed like the perfect
Yep.
thing
Yep.
to connect to, because we do things, and you've been at events just recently, the gala, and then the Elks in Wallingford, 1365. I'm a proud member. United Way, Masters Manna, the Coalition, Youth and Social Services. Like, there's
Yeah.
so much. I want to believe everybody's doing the right thing for the right reason, and not just the bottom line, or to uphold something, because I know for me, I don't want to do what I do off of the back of the people I say I serve, right?
Yep.
And I'm willing to take that extra risk or go that extra mile because I can. But I believe this moves forward. I get to leave something behind that'll help people that I've never met before.
Well, you do that now.
Yeah,
You certainly do that now, big time.
thanks.
Yes.
Leave it behind. Like, I can't do it
Right.
with children.
Right.
Right? I can help other people. But
Yes.
in the memorial quilt, like, every time I take it out and I see your son, it just warms my heart, because I know everybody on there
Yes.
in one way or another. Because again, when we pull community together,
It was wonderful making that quilt
yes.
because I connected with so many other parents who were remembering their children. We just talked about our children when we made our squares for that quilt. And, it was just such a wonderful thing because we talked about the beautiful qualities that they had. A lot of people won't even mention our children's names. They find it very difficult to talk about our children. And it's almost as if they bring up their name, they don't want to upset anybody,
Right.
so they don't mention it, which is more upsetting than actually talking about them.
Yeah,
We
it's
love to talk
learning.
about our children.
Right.
We
right.
love to,
Yeah.
They were a gift to us. Trying to remember them in the good times
Yep.
instead of, just not leaving them just with the memory of what took their lives.
Well, they
You know,
made a difference, and
they
they're
made a
not
big
going in
difference.
vain.
Right.
They're not going. Every
Right.
time I just went on vacation, right? So I sent you a picture. It was like this little. I see hearts
The
now.
heart.
Like every mom and dad and sister and brother that I get to meet, I hear their story.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's an honor and a privilege to do
Yes.
that too, and even hear their pain.
Yeah.
In what they've carried, and if it's permission they're getting out of watching each other be vulnerable, that it's okay. But when I saw the heart, and I'll just send a picture to someone when I see something that reminds me
Yeah.
of them.
I know that-
Ladybugs here.
That
and-
was great that you did that. Thank you.
yeah, but
Yeah.
even in the backyard. And I think
Yep.
I found a piece of wood on
Yes.
the side of the road.
Yes, I have it
was
right
a heart.
outside my door. Yep.
That's awesome. And that's where I found it and I left it.
Yes.
I don't think I called you before you're like, hey, did you leave something on? I'm like the person, if there's something weird happening,
You're
let's
Anna.
call Anna. That's funny.
It is great.
I love
Yeah.
where we live. And,
Yeah.
the fact that our paths have crossed and
Yes.
so many people come and go in our lives, not necessarily passing, but some people are, and like yourself, you've been in my life now. It's like at the door we met, I had my famous banana bread, and
Yes.
it's on. Ever since then, we've been on.
Yeah.
And you've been so instrumental in the monthly expectations that we have to be able to pull off our newsletter, the TriCircle connection, and editing your passion, right? Everybody is good at something.
Yeah.
As a teacher, you've heard me use the analogy, and I know you're going to understand. Like if you have 4 A's and a D on a report card, most people, I don't know why, they're going to go to the D and try to fix it.
Right.
And I really want to send home, like, I got 4 A's. And you may have an A where I have a D, and that makes us better together. I'm always saying, together we are stronger.
Right.
And I just think
Yeah.
it's so important. It's not a competition to save lives.
Right. Right.
I mean, you could be the winner all day, and I pleasantly allow that, right? If you're
Yeah.
going to be saving more lives than me,
Right.
excellent.
Right.
You know, I want to be on the team, though.
Yeah.
And I'm just so emotionally connected to so much.
Well, you are so passionate about what you do, and which is why you do what you do because
I wish
of that
crime
passion.
was a skinny, like a weight loss program. I'm always saying, my God, this should like get me something.
If you could shed the pounds with the tears.
And thank you. I don't mean to minimize or plow over your story.
Yeah.
You know, been pretty cool how we play Setback in town now.
Yep.
Right? In Wallingford at Dad's.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
And that's a blast.
And that's meeting new people.
All the time.
And sharing stories with these new people and just
everyone
making
knows
more
someone,
connections. Yep.
Right? Every time they're
Yes.
just like, oh my this or that, or
Right.
how can I help?
Right.
Because we talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, but never knew that cards were going to, because I always tell people when they're signing up, they're to play cards. Some of these people like to play cards.
Right.
And they want to win. But I'm like, do you know who you're playing for? You know, do you know what it is and why we're doing this?
Right.
You
I
know?
usually ask, how do you know Anna?
Yeah.
How did you end up here?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I try to get it now to go TriCircle. How do you know about TriCircle?
Yes.
And why do you want to help TriCircle? Like, do you know
Yeah.
the vision? Right?
Yeah.
Because it's a very lofty goal. We're underway for a very lofty
Yes.
goal. And, the more will be said, we can be found, and it's not meant to be talked about, but it's what, when I needed to find a purpose, I knew this was going to happen, but it needed more people. I definitely couldn't do it alone, and I have so much to learn. I can only learn so much, but then I don't want to sleep because I think I don't want to waste any time.
Yeah.
Especially because people are hurting
Yes.
and feeling powerless or angry or manipulated or any of these feelings. Like, how do we redirect that stuff? I say the art of flipping, right? So I know what I've done, and I've been trying to do things different for 28 years now. Some people only know me for my past, and that's okay. It's not my job to change their mind.
Yeah.
But if they get close enough, they're going to see I'm not that person anymore.
Yeah.
I want to be different. I want to make my family proud. But it's not why you get out of bed anymore. Biology doesn't equate unacceptable behavior, but I love my family. Right? And even though some of the, like myself too, I did some foul things, right? People that are in pain, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, they don't want to feel that way.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's at a point, if you're physically addicted too, it changes the way that we interact with society, So I'll learn as much
Yeah.
as I can, that's for sure.
Yeah. And that was a hard thing with my son, watching my son change because of the addiction. He wasn't the same person. And a lot of his activities were not because he wanted to do them. It was because he needed to do them. And, so that was difficult to deal with.
I know, I find
Yeah.
things like pictures or certain things, like I'm trying to get rid of stuff. I got so much stuff, right? And it's only slowly getting rid of it over, in the day when we were younger, we had we had great toys, we had choices and options, and I knew we had some real fortunate interactions with society and community and my family. So I always saved things, but then I realized it was distorted. It was like stuff was love. And I kept it because I needed, that's how I felt like
You
I
held
got.
on to it, yeah.
Yeah, and now when I see something, I want someone else to enjoy it.
Okay.
Or when, I think there was interpretations of maybe me or us, our family or something like that. And I'm just like, God, if you want it, take it. Because I know what it really meant.
Yeah.
So it's like, I think we all have a place and we can all make a difference.
Yes.
And I just don't want to compromise myself. I don't want to care about people at my expense anymore. So it's not easy to stand out and speak up. It's almost like against the tide sometimes. Yeah. But again, I don't go away. I think it's important to realize, all these numbers and data, graphs and dots and the map, and those are people. And every person has a family. Even when I did, things that were bad and foul, I didn't do it alone, but now that I have a better understanding to why I did what I did, that gives me empathy for other people. When people go to groups, I know when they're going to try to say their name, it's going to be emotional. A lot of the time, it's like they try to introduce it, and the tears start right there.
Yeah.
Because it's the first time they've ever talked about it.
And that's the hardest thing. It takes so much to go into that first group. It really does.
Yep.
It takes a lot of courage to go into there because you're going into the unknown.
Yep.
and you're so vulnerable. But once you're there, you realize that you're not alone.
Did you go to groups before Chris passed?
No. I didn't know I'd looked for groups.
Right.
I couldn't find any groups.
Wow.
I think there was one, was it in Old Saybrook maybe?
Wow.
But which was much too far for me to go. There were no groups around here.
I started in 2013 here in Wallingford. I was so grateful. There was a licensed marriage and family therapist, and he put my name in the hat for this potential job. And I just, wow. I had such an experience. And, you know, I started seeing what and felt what people were like missing from a different perspective, right? Because I didn't have children. And it was amazing. Even the Paraphernalia Project. I have that other business. Like,
right.
Why not lose my mind with one? Let's start two. Oh my God. But the Paraphernalia was so educational. It still is.
Yes, it is.
You know, I walk in different towns across the state, 169 towns. I want to walk in all of them. Because everyone does know someone. Every town is affected.
Yep.
But people don't even know what they're walking by.
Right.
So when I first created it, it was to educate people with what's right in front of them. The glass top boxes, telling them about Narcan. You know, it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Super important. And, you know, there's a lot of misunderstandings about that. Or drug disposal bags. Or even drug tests.
Yeah.
If someone's utilizing a medicated assisted therapy, it's in the drug tests that we have, that we give away at our support groups if needed. If they're on that particular program as a pathway to recovery, they better test positive for it. And I want to catch them doing something right.
Yep. Right.
Right? So if we can flip anything over, we're going to want to make things that are challenging positive.
Yes.
Like, so how do we catch you doing things right? How do we support you doing things right?
Yeah.
But there's the business of urine. So I got to take it. This is me. I got to teach you about this too if I'm going to teach you about that.
Yeah.
Right? So learning about boundaries and conversations and things.
Yeah. Yeah, this was really, really a good conversation with you, Anna.
I always learn a little bit more about you every time. Every walk, every sit, every car ride, whatever it is that we do.
Yeah.
And we are stronger together.
We
I think
are,
it's
definitely.
really an amazing connection. And your family. I get to kind of like peer in every once in a while and meet your grands and hear those stories. And that's where I look at having admiration for people that have the things that I think I want, right? But I don't have them, so I get to see it and experience it through others.
Yeah.
And I think it's super cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us, definitely. It is a community conversation, and I'm so grateful to be part of it. Thanks. Thanks, Trish.
Thank you. Anna.